Just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show, we have the editor-at-large from the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Also have journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth. We've got Andy Scott from London Taxi PR and pop sensation John Galea.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wensler with your headlines at 7 o'clock. Heathrow Airport has restarted some flights tonight and it hopes to run a full service tomorrow, while restrictions on overnight flights have been temporarily lifted to help ease congestion. It's after a fire at a nearby electrical substation forced Europe's busiest airport into shutdown. More than 1,300 flights have been cancelled or diverted, affecting over 200,000 passengers and leaving planes and crews in the wrong locations. Counter-terrorism police are now leading an investigation into the blaze, though they say there's no indication of foul play. Speaking earlier, the Heathrow Airport CEO apologised for the shutdown.
First of all, what I'd like to do is to apologise to the many people who have had their travel affected during the day-to-day. We are very sorry about all the inconvenience. I hope people appreciate that we do not close down the airport unless we have severe safety concerns. That's why we do it, and that's what has happened today. We've been working tirelessly to get the operation back into running, and that's what's now happening.
To the US now, where President Donald Trump has dismissed reports that Elon Musk was to be briefed about US plans for a war that might break out with China. The tech billionaire visited the Pentagon today for meetings that have sparked debate after multiple US media outlets suggested he would be given an overview of a China war plan. Mr. Musk called for the prosecution of officials he said had leaked maliciously false information to the New York Times, which first reported the story. Speaking from the Oval Office today, the president denied the reports, saying China will not even be mentioned or discussed. Back in the UK, a man who took a bomb into a Leeds hospital intending to kill as many nurses as possible has been jailed for life. Mohammed Farouk has been jailed at Sheffield Crown Court for a minimum term of 37 years. Farouk, who was a trainee nurse, was last year found guilty of attempting to launch an IS-inspired suicide attack using a homemade bomb on the hospital where he worked in 2023. The Prince of Wales has joined troops in a Challenger 2 tank as he visited UK soldiers on a NATO base less than 100 miles from the Russian border. Prince William travelled in the tank across muddy terrain at Taper Army Camp in Estonia, telling British troops he hoped his visit would keep everyone on their toes. He made a two-day trip to Estonia to strengthen UK ties with its NATO ally and support British forces stationed in the country as part of Britain's NATO contribution. And Tommy Robinson has lost a High Court bid to challenge his segregation in prison over fears he'd be killed by another inmate. He was moved to a closed wing at Wood Hill after intelligence suggested a prisoner serving a life sentence was planning to attack him. His lawyers argued his isolation breaches human rights and is harming his mental health. But the court heard he enjoys various privileges behind bars and has no arguable claim. Now, those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield, and joining me tonight I have Charlotte Griffiths, who's the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, and he's back as our left in the corner, Benjamin Butterworth. This should be a laugh tonight, guys. Look, net zero. I raised this issue in the Commons this week at PMQs. Have a look at this.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions. And I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle from the opposite benches. So Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Prime Minister a very simple question on behalf of all the net zero sceptics. If we became net zero tomorrow, by how much would it reduce the Earth's temperature by? Simple question. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, net zero is of course not easy, but it's a huge opportunity to boost our growth, our jobs and our economy. And so he knows my views on that.
So, Charlotte, you've seen the pathetic response from Sir Keir Starmer. He's not here to defend himself, but it wasn't a response at all. Either he couldn't answer the question or he knew the answer and was too embarrassed to give the answer. Is net zero killing us?
I think it's the second one. I think he's too embarrassed to admit that net zero isn't working. I can't believe he's still peddling this idea that it's a boost to the economy, even as evidence points in the exact opposite direction. We're seeing job losses in factories because factories are too expensive to run. You know, it's really affecting the working people, while people in Westminster are sneering. You know, the Ed Miliband sneering, virtue signalling.
Yeah, sneering, yeah.
Net zero zealots. And then, but what it's actually doing is affecting people with jobs in factories, you know, which is completely the opposite end of the scale. I just don't think they take into account these people. And I think the fact that Kemi Badenoch this week sort of wrote it off, it says all we need to say, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Benjamin, I'll come to you now. Not that you're sneering, young man, but I get businesses contact me every week. I visit businesses every week, and their biggest complaint, apart from the national insurance increases, is the increase in energy prices. It affects them massively. And after I asked the question this week in the Commons, businesses are emailing me saying, thank you, Lee, thanks for raising this. This is madness.
Well, the increase in energy prices is because we can't rely on our own energy sources. And doesn't that illustrate why we need renewable energy? Things like solar power, things like wind power, especially as an island, wind is begging to be used as a source. And if you look at the opportunity of that area, it's a market that's going to be worth $2 trillion by the end of this decade. Now, a country like Britain, which is a highly educated workforce, one of the best educated in the world, we can seize that kind of technological development. Now, I think that is a fantastic thing, and people like you want to do this country down.
What do you mean, people like you? What do you mean by that, people like you?
People like
you are steering it back now, Benjamin.
I'm saying
people like you.
People like you who think that we can't make the most of these opportunities, that we should be scared of the future. That's what you say. You'd rather have us all in coal and down mines. Times change, and we need to lead it as Britain.
Well, when we import energy, where do you think that energy is coming from? It's from coal factories in China.
Exactly.
It's from fracking in America. We're importing other people's dirty energy because we want to be able to virtue signal and say, oh, we get all ours from wind. We don't get enough from wind to make up for what we're losing. And we're importing it, and at a great risk to ourselves in a geopolitical
Are you happy,
climate.
really happy, Benjamin, to import fracked gas from the United States to use in this country, when we've just discovered a gas field in Lincolnshire that can fuel our country for 10 years?
Well, it's not ideal to import it. That's why we need to develop our own sustainable energy source.
But why don't we just use our own in the meantime, whilst we transition, like China's doing?
Well, there are concerns about the safety of fracking. And
concerns by who?
Well, concerns by lots of experts, lots of environmentalists have raised concerns about the effects they had, and it's an ill-tested technology at the moment. But wind and solar is something we can really harness. You know, there are so many opportunities. The other week, I met a guy, a Scottish entrepreneur, who's developing racing cars that use hydrogen, something that they think...
Well, that'll be some comfort to the pensioners in my patch who are struggling to pay their gas and electric bills. Racing cars.
Yeah, but I tell you what, that is a way to test the technology in Britain with British businesses. And hydrogen is something we could use
Go on, Charlotte, you've got to come back
fuel
on this
planes. That could change the world.
This is ridiculous.
Is there anything more liberal elite than talking about racing cars?
I know, unbelievable.
I think the thing is...
Motor racing is actually a great way to test technology because it's got a lot of money in it and a lot of research.
Well, let's test some common sense.
Well, I think it is common sense. I don't think you have to be afraid of the future. Yes, you can embrace some funky new technology, but in the short term, you've got to actually be realistic. It's dangerous. Geopolitics is changing day to day. And this is a policy from 2019. It's not nimble. It doesn't move with the times. Only a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump was saying, drill, baby, drill. You know, we've got to think of a way to solve the climate problem and look after our own energy, produce our own energy, keep ourselves safe, not be cut off by Russia.
Countries like China
America.
get a lot of stick for building coal-fired power stations, yet they're leading the world, Benjamin, in renewables. They've got the best of both worlds. They're manufacturing using coal-fired blast furnaces, they're producing electricity by coal-fired power stations, but at the same time leading the world with renewables. Surely they've got the balance right.
Well, they're trying to phase away from that in the long run as well, in the medium term.
Yeah, but they're doing it properly.
China has a net zero target of 2060 and says...
Which is more realistic.
Its emissions will peak in 2030. So ask yourself this, if it's such an act of self-harm, if it's so pointless, why would planned economies like China even be leaning into it? It's because they see the environmental effects in their own country.
Of course
and by the way...
Of course they do, Benjamin, but they're still opening coal-fired power stations.
And they're going to be closing them once they can transition to renewable energy. And actually, I think as Britain, as the Commonwealth, it is many of the small islands in the Commonwealth that are already seeing the harshest effects, that are going underwater, that are extreme weather consequences. And I'm so glad that the King speaks up about this stuff because he knows, as you should know, that it'll be Commonwealth countries going underwater.
Nobody's denying that there's a climate crisis that needs to be addressed. It's just putting a target date of 2050 is complete madness. You've got to have an ethos. So in France, they have environmental sobriety. And it's a whole ethos. It's not just the financial sector, it's at home, it's in all the different industries. Also in Germany, they are returning to coal a little bit because they have to make cars. It's like their big thing. And they can't have factories closing down. We should be saying, well, we can't have our chemical plants shutting down and our car manufacturers closing down.
We have a coal mine ready to go in Cumbria, Whitehaven. It produces metallurgical coal, which is coking coal. It's high-grade coal, which is used to make steel, virgin steel, and to make cement.
Well, we're importing
this 3 million tonnes of this coal a year and refuse to open this coal mine, which, by the way, could be a carbon-neutral coal mine, and we're still importing this from all around the world. It's madness, Benjamin.
I don't think it's madness. I think at some point you have to make a decision that you're going to have a cleaner economy and a sustainable economy. And I tell you what, Britain won't be much use if it's underwater. And that's the kind of scenario...
And that's the point, Benjamin. If we went underwater tomorrow, it would make no difference at all to the world's atmosphere, Charlotte.
Yes, because less than 1% of the carbon emissions come from us. And also, at any point tomorrow, we could be cut off because we bring in energy from other countries, which is highly dangerous. We could all be in a blackout by tomorrow. Who knows? We need to be self-sufficient. And wokies are really into local, buying local, keeping it local, keeping it sustainable, buying your produce from farmers in the UK. Why can't it be the same with energy?
There you go.
Well, this is the point of sustainable energy. By nature, the solar panels and the wind power is local. It isn't relying on other countries. And yes, we're at a difficult point in that journey, but you have to get to that point. That's when we're self-reliant. That's when we have clean energy. And, most people, if you go back decades, people didn't think about air pollution. But now we've got to a situation where, thanks to Sadiq Khan, London's mayor, we've managed to accelerate how clean the air is in the capital by decades. It is possible, and we'll all be better off if we can just get on with it. People like you carping from the sidelines, you have us down.
Are you sneering again, Benjamin? People like you?
I'm not sneering. I'm saying people like you.
People like you
means people that don't want to move on, don't want to get on with
people like Charlotte. Come on, Charlotte, you've got to come back on that.
When he keeps saying people like you, it assumes that people like us don't believe in climate change. We do. We do want to find a solution. Of course, you just got to be realistic.
The climate's been changing since the planet began.
You have to be a climate denier to think that net zero is an outdated 2019 policy from the Ed Miliband era. He's old news. You've got to think of a new way. Things are changing day by day, and you've got to move with the times.
I agree, and I do believe, climate does change all the time, Benjamin. It's been doing it for hundreds of millions of years, but the planet repairs itself eventually. The net zero, I think it's a scam, net zero. I think it's an absolute
But do you think
scam.
climate change is a scam?
Of course climate changes. It's been changing for hundreds of millions of years.
So you don't think that human behaviour, the industrial revolution...
well, that's where you have to prove it, Benjamin, and nobody can actually prove it, can they?
Yes, 99%
we need carbon.
So hang on, you don't believe human beings are affecting the climate?
Well, of course we affect the climate in some ways, just the way we lead our lives. You know, we drive cars, we operate machines. But look at the recent hypocrisy. I'll give you this one then, Charlotte. COP30 in Brazil, they're going to chop down thousands of acres of rainforest to build a motorway to this city where they're going to host COP6 and then fly in idiots from around the world to tell us how to save the planet.
On private jets.
Are you going, Benjamin?
I would if I were invited.
On private jets.
This is what I mean. It's a hypocrisy. I actually personally do lean a bit more towards Ben in that I do believe that there is a climate emergency, but I hate the way we're dealing with it. I hate this arbitrary date with net zero. I hate the things like COP. What has changed since the first COP? When was it? 1991. You know, nothing really. And what we're learning is in the 6 years since we've had net zero is that people are getting poorer. Nothing's particularly changed in the climate. You know, we need a whole solution rather than this arbitrary date.
Guys, that was a feisty debate, and you people in the corner there got a little bit feisty. Look, coming up next, we've got Andy Scott.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. And with a difference, it's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
Well, let's talk about something that has really divided opinion now. So this is King Charles gearing up for a religious festival, not Easter, Ramadan, packing dates for Muslims, observing a month of fasting. Here's the clip.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize the king would be so fast. You are packing dates faster than I can see them.
What do you make of that, Charlie?
Well, I don't see any problems with it. I mean, let's not forget that the royals, particularly the king, does an awful lot of work with a variety of charities, especially those charities that help people who are, you know, down on their luck or need a bit of extra boost. This one is a doorstep charity which provides help to people waiting for new homes. Now, you mentioned this one. This is for Ramadan. Now, in a month's time, Patrick, he'll be doing the Easter service, a Christian festival, and he'll on the day before Good Friday, he'll be donating the Maundy money that comes out every year to 30-odd pensioners. It's not a princely sum. They're not going to be able to pay the winter fuel outs, or it's not going to cover anything like that. But it is symbolic. Now, he does an awful lot of things. And remember, years and years ago, Charles has always said he didn't want to be defender of the faith. He wanted to be defender of all faith. So it's only right that the king fosters good relationships with a variety of religions.
As well, Charles, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to have you on. Good to see you again, mate. It's been a little while. It's Charlie Ray there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This spring, the Chancellor steps up to the dispatch box to make a statement. But what kind of statement will it be?
Taxes, spending, growth, benefits, cost of living. What's changing? And more importantly, how does it affect you?
Does she have the headroom to make headway?
Will it ease the squeeze or tighten the grip?
Will businesses boom or struggle to survive?
And does the spring statement have real impact, or is it just political posturing?
GB News brings you the analysis that matters. Just what it means for your money, your home, your future.
The Spring Statement 2025, Wednesday on GB News.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World, and we're going to find out what real people are thinking in the real world. We've got Andy Scott here. You're the comms director for London Taxi PR. Did I get that right?
Yes,
okay.
you did.
So we've seen a report recently from the Centre for London, who state that if the amount of taxis decline on our streets at the current rate in 20 years' time, 2045, there'll be no black cabs on the streets of London. What's going on, Andy?
Well, there is that distinct possibility, sadly. What's not being helped is the fact that there's so many issues affecting London taxi drivers at the moment. The price of the vehicle isn't helping. The access that they require to all streets and roads. Considerable traffic congestion, which isn't being helped by the continued licensing of private hire vehicles, which is virtually just under 108,000 private hire vehicles on the road.
Wow.
Compared to...
Is this like Uber? And
It is.
Yeah.
It is indeed. Yeah. Compared to about what 17,000 London taxis that we've got. You know, so all of these factors aren't helping. Like I say, the cost of the vehicle is a significant one. And also, with regards to anyone that's thinking of coming in and training and studying to be a London taxi driver, as I said to you earlier, we've been doing job fairs recently to promote the knowledge and the profession as a potential career, because we need to top up and bring in more students.
I'm just going to stop you there, Andy, because you know, back in the day, I remember a time when to become a black cabbie driver in London, you had to have this huge amount of knowledge, know where every street was, every postcode.
Indeed.
Before the days of sat-nav, you had to do all these tests, and they were on really, really good money. And rightly so. And they, I notice now that when I get a black cab around London, they all seem to know who I am because of my job.
Sure.
But they always have a little grumble while I'm sat in the cab, normally about Mayor Khan.
Yes.
He's not here to defend himself, by the way. He'll probably say he's a great mayor. That's up to him. But they all moan about the ULEZ. They moan about the congestion. They moan about the Ubers. It seems like we're doing our best, I think, to get rid of our cab drivers, and I think that's a shocking thing.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. With regards to Mayor Khan, bless him, when he was potentially professing to come to election the first time around, he sat in the back of a black cab and said he proclaimed that he was going to be the saviour of the London taxi profession. And it's proved to be exactly the opposite. You know, as I've said to you, the amount of private hire vehicle licences that are being issued weekly is completely off the scale. Other countries and other major cities have got caps on it. We haven't, for some reason.
Well, this is the thing, you know, to be a taxi driver in London, and I mean a black cab driver, is totally different to being a taxi driver, I think, in the rest of the country, where they rock up in, it's not a black cab, obviously, but just a normal car. And I noticed that most of the cabs I get in now in London, the black cabs, are electric. Are they all electric?
No, there's roughly around 60% of the fleet.
But that restricts them as well, the electric electric taxis with the journeys they can do.
The zero emission. Well, you've got the potential. You can convert to both, so it's petrol and electric.
What, like a hybrid?
Yes. So you've got that ability. But like I say, even those vehicles are not being allowed through some of the areas in London that the councils have barred other vehicles apart from buses or motorbikes
So we know that Mayor Khan is making millions of pounds a year through the ULEZ, the fines, etc.
Yep.
Could he not funnel some of that money away and give it to the cab drivers to help them promote their business, get new people in?
Well, you would think so. Again, you know, there are these grants that are being issued for, particularly for TfL are issuing grants for cycling and walking schemes.
Yeah.
Well, not everyone with the best will in the world can cycle or walk. The taxis are fully wheelchair accessible vehicles, you know. But also, he's, through the Greater London Assembly, there's funding pots there for initiatives to get people back into employment. Well, again, if someone's embarking on the knowledge, it's a serious commitment, not only in terms of time, but financially. Now, there needs to be, or should be, some access to some form of grant or government funding that can help people.
I don't know if you've been on Lambeth Bridge lately in Westminster. I walk across that most days. They've dug all that up and they're putting cycle lanes in on this bridge, and it's creating mayhem. It must be costing millions and millions of pounds. And I think the reason they've done this, so I've been told, is because a couple of cyclists had accidents on this bridge.
Right.
So which they do. I mean, I've got to be honest, Andy. When I've been nearly run over in London a few times, it's always been cyclists. It's never been a car. It's the cyclists whizzing around the corner. There's no noise. But there seem to be, you know, a little bit of virtue signalling, and I think they started with Boris back in the day, where they want to see everybody on a push bike or walking. But then the day, people still need to get to work as well and use the cars, use the cabs.
Exactly.
So it's just a nonsense to me.
Well, yeah. Again, you know, you're seeing a narrowing of the public highway. So what's happening is taxis are being pushed into the normal traffic, as we call it, with regards to the reduction of space where, let's say, for instance, a bus lane is being significantly reduced or even in some instances taken away. So you're pushing taxis into the normal traffic, so they're losing that advantage that they have of being able to use bus lanes and get people from A to B quicker.
And what about these LTNs, low traffic neighbourhoods? I get quite a few cabbies moaning.
Again,
if you just explain what they are.
So for the low traffic neighbourhoods, I mean, basically you're seeing that it's an instance where, or normally it's, what they've tried to do is cut out what they call the rat runs, if you like.
Short
But if you get a resident, let's say for instance, who's got a disability, they're still going to be want to taken to their door, which is one of the prime factors of using a London taxi. It's door-to-door public transport. Well, they don't want to drop someone off 200 or 300 yards from their house and tell them, I'm afraid I can't go through that area because of the accessibility. They won't allow taxis, yet they'll allow motorbikes and cycles.
Seems ridiculous, don't it?
It does, and again, it cuts down, like I say, the accessibility that taxis have got. OK,
so quickly, before we end, Andy, you've got 20 seconds to give some instructions to Mayor Khan. What would it be?
It would be, let's see some funding support for London taxis. Let's see some funding support for the knowledge students. And let's see a cap on private hire vehicle licences, please.
There you are, Mayor Khan. I hope you're watching. I know you watch this show every Friday night or on catch-up on a Saturday morning. Andy, thanks for your time.
Pleasure, Lee.
Great discussion. Coming up next, we've got right versus left.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here We do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's time for Right versus Left, and it's Benjamin versus Charlotte. And we've got coming up next the Yes or No quiz as well. But, guys, there's been a lot of talk this week about disability benefits and the alleged cuts which the Labour government are going to make. But are we doing enough to get disabled people back into the workplace, Benjamin?
Well, clearly not, because they're not going back into the workplace. We're the only major economy that doesn't have as many people in the workforce today as pre-COVID, so something has gone wrong. And I think there's just an attitude in this country of maligning and disrespecting some people with disabilities as though it is too great a problem to fix. And so I think part of it is actually a cultural attitudes thing, that you need to get bosses and workplaces into that attitude. So maybe legislation is a way to do that. And then also, I think society has got into a state where a lot of people's mental health is getting worse and is deteriorating. I think the amount of time we spend looking at our phones and not looking into each other's eyes is an absolute disaster. And although there are questions about some people's anxiety and mental health problems, some of it doesn't sound quite legit. But for a lot of people, I think we've got society in a place where it's no wonder they're incredibly stressed and depressed.
I find myself agreeing with Benjamin. I think I need to go and have a lie down in a dark room and put some whale music on.
God, what's happened to you?
What's happening, Charlotte?
I think in answer to your original question, it depends what we're talking about when we say disabled. Obviously, there is actually a bit of an ableist dilemma in the UK, where is it actually physically easy to get to the office if you are actually physically disabled? I find it amazing that the tube is so discouraging for disabled people. It's almost impossible to use.
It is impossible.
There's that, but then there's this other, so that does need to be addressed, but then there's this other side of the situation, which is everybody has anxiety. And what I've noticed recently is everybody really believes they have all these ailments, you know, these mental health. It's not that I'm going to pretend I've got mental anxiety so I can skive. It's genuine, like, worries and very navel-gazing, constantly worrying about ailments and problems. And I've just noticed that as a new cultural thing since I've been in the workplace.
Are we becoming a nation of hypochondriacs?
I think that honestly is happening a little bit. And I think that has been perpetuated by benefits culture, because you're encouraged by the NHS to sort of worry about yourself and maybe sign on for this credit and that credit. And then it becomes this self-perpetuating community thing where everyone's just terribly worried that they're too ill and they can't do anything.
But I don't know if they're hypochondriacs because I think that people, you said it in the first place, that they really feel these problems. I think we're a nation of loners. I think we're people, you know, I'm just old enough.
Speak for yourself, man.
You know, but I'm just old enough that I got Facebook when I was like 17, so I missed it during the teenage years. I suppose it didn't mean I had any friends to hang out with. But kids today, people that are entering the workforce, have only known life through the iPad or through their phone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they're not used to socialising, to talking to other people. And the best remedy for depression, unless it's serious clinical depression, and the best remedy for anxiety is to see people, is to have human connection.
So if somebody went to the doctor, Charlotte, I sort of get what Benjamin's saying. If somebody went to the doctor with all these symptoms of depression and anxiety, and the doctor said to that young person, right, here's your prescription. It says throw your phone, your tablet and your computer away for 6 weeks and go and mix with some real people. That'll cure you. Do you think they would do it?
I don't think the doctor would dare say that because there's a culture where you can't say anything realistic to people anymore because you might offend them. But I think that would be the best prescription. And go to an office, be mentored by another human being who would keep a personal eye on you, see how you are day to day. I've had 3 maternity leaves. At the end of each maternity leave, I was basically round the twist, sitting on the sofa all day with a baby. It drove me crazy. I needed to get on the tube. Yes, the tube is a nightmare, but, you know, you're surrounded by people. Then you walk to the office.
Says Benjamin.
You know, you're doing things.
Have you ever felt round the twist?
Yes, yeah, I have.
Tell me more.
Well, lockdown didn't do me any favours, even though I stuck to it ardently. In fact, I spent almost 3 months just in my bedroom, not speaking to anybody.
Wow.
And it really damaged me, and actually that damage lasted. And I think that's one of the problems we have now, is that behaviours that people got into in lockdown have lived on. It changes the shape of a person, and I think we're seeing the consequences of that. But there's a writer called Johann Hari who's written fantastically about depression, and there was a story of a woman in Berlin who had put a notice in her window. No one ever spoke to her on this council estate in Berlin, and she said that she was going to end her life. And then everybody was horrified by this, and so they started knocking on the door. And then 2 years later, she starts to know her neighbours. They start to campaign with her because they were going to destroy this council estate. And she ends up, at the end of this book, being happier than she ever had been. Now, what had changed? Well, they saved the estate they lived on, which was a stress. But it was that she knew her neighbours, that she had connections, that she realised the world around wasn't so terrifying. And when you hear stories like that, I think that's a big problem with modern society.
I'm agreeing with Benjamin again, Charlotte. There's lots of people in this country now that don't even know the name of the next door neighbours. That was unheard of 30, 40, 50 years ago.
We've lost our communities, and what is good about going to work is at least you're in a community. If you've left your home, if you don't know your neighbours, at least you get to the office and at the water cooler, your friend's saying to you, you know, how was the movie you watched last night with your husband? What are you up to? How's your mum? It's just talking to other people, and that's why going to work is so important, because if you don't have a village life, I think humans are meant to live in little communities in villages. That's how we were sort of made to be. But seeing as that can't happen, because I live in London and a massive block of flats, you know, so going to work is really important to re-establish that human connection.
Do you know, I've spent a lot of the last 5 months in the Arab world, and there are lots of things I wouldn't want, but one of the things that really struck me in these countries is that they have such a sense of community. They don't live in their houses or their flats. They live in the streets, out hanging out with each other, sharing food and talking to each other and helping each other. And I really think we would learn a lesson to take that, to be sat in cafes and communal in restaurants. You know, these days, if you see a stranger, you're fearful of them. You think, oh, what are they going to do? And that is a massive problem. We're not built like that. We are pack animals, and we're not behaving like it. And that is a problem that can't be solved by changes to the welfare system. It is a cultural one, but I think big tech has a lot of responsibility in morphing our culture.
Come on, Charlotte.
Well, I think I can disagree with you on
this,
one tiny point. Going to cafes these days costs, well, it's £5 for a coffee now, even at Costa. So actually life is too expensive to do that. And the Spanish are quite good. They go and hang out in car parks and drink out of the back of their boots. And they do have that community, and their teenagers do that. And their teenagers
You know what, I went to Singapore last year, and I think it was on the Saturday or the Sunday, it might have been both days actually, but the whole community comes out and they just sit on every bit of grass with their blankets, their picnics, their drinks, and they just share and they play music. and they weren't spending a penny really, but thousands of them literally sat there in the parks, and even underneath bridges where it was a bit cooler. Literally, thousands of people just enjoying themselves and talking. Brilliant stuff to see.
Well, look, we're sitting here in a pub, and the pubs are on the decline, and that's what we Brits do the best, don't we? Sit in pub gardens all summer long. But unfortunately, a pint is about £9 these days.
This is getting a little bit boring now, guys, because we're getting on. We're smiling. We don't like this. So we're going to go for the yes or no quiz. This fireworks might start flying. You know the rules, Benjamin. It's a yes or no. And first question to you, Charlotte. Are the Labour government right to increase national insurance employee contributions on hospices?
No.
Yes.
You heard that, didn't you? Benjamin, should mobile phones be banned in school?
No.
Charlotte?
Yes.
Ooh. Charlotte, is net zero making us all poorer?
Yes.
Benjamin?
No.
Proper delusion.
Now we're fighting.
Number 4, Benjamin, is net zero costing jobs?
No.
I think he's been away for far too long.
Yes.
You said there's proof. Oh, dear God. So, I mean, it's a good answer, but I can't give it you. And last question, Benjamin. Are businesses happy with Rachel Reeves?
Yes.
Now I know you're making this stuff up. Charlotte?
No.
I'm sorry, Charlotte, he's beat you. But he did, in your defence, he did come out with some ridiculous answers. Is net zero making us poorer? We know it is. Is it costing jobs? Yes, I visit businesses every week. But the killer, Benjamin, are businesses happy with Rachel Reeves? Please explain yourself.
Well, I think they understand what a mess the country is in, right? And lots of businesses know that, for example, the NHS, we're talking about benefits, the fact that there are nearly 7 million people still on waiting lists means lots of people can't get back into work. Lots of people can't do their jobs properly. The economy is stagnating. And so that is one of the things that I think many businesses are grateful for. And they also are grateful for stability. We're probably the only G7 economy which is looking like it will be stable for the next 4 years. Now, that is fantastic for the wall of investment, international money that was frozen in the last 5 years because of the chaos, and that can now come into Britain. And I think businesses will be very glad of that because we need that money coming into the economy. We've not
Charlotte
had it.
is saying this with a straight face.
We were doing a lot better in the G7 when Rishi Sunak was the Prime Minister, so that can't be right. And also, just look at all the flights of millionaires and business owners fleeing the country for a warmer, sunnier, healthier climate.
I mean, I'd point out a quarter of pensioners are millionaires, so if pensioners are going to live in the south
Oh, it's the
of France,
pensioners' fault.
Let's
blame the pensioners.
I don't think those millionaires
Let's
are
stick
very
the boot
useful.
in on the pensioners. I've got no problem with pensioners being rich at all. They've worked all their life, they've contributed, they're still paying taxes, they're still contributing towards society and paying for stuff, Benjamin.
If only. The fact is that we've got the biggest generational inequality ever seen. Boomers are the wealthiest generation of human history. They have £2.5 trillion of housing wealth. When that means that someone up to 40 years old with a good job, let alone an average job, can't get the basics, they can't get on the housing ladder, that means they can't afford to have
But is that
kids.
the pensioners' fault? Is that the pensioners' fault?
Well, it is. It is in the sense that
it?
they've inflated the assets and benefited from that, and that is cutting off the lifeline to the rest of the country. That's something that will help the economy, is to rebalance that.
Those boomers are your parents, presumably, and you're probably going to inherit one of those houses one of these days.
If only, but I don't want to live in an inheritocracy. I don't think that is a fair place to be.
So you're going to give
a working class lad like you wouldn't benefit
away
from that.
So if you inherit millions, are you going to give it all away?
Well, I mean, my parents actually are both criminals. They've both been to prison, so they haven't amassed much wealth. So there isn't much chance of that. But actually, that's part of it. I think if you believe in a meritocracy, then you shouldn't believe that you live off the money that your parents can hand down to you.
And on that point, guys, we're going to have to end it there. Fantastic debate there. Coming up next, we've got Last Orders with John Galea.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Low pressure remains mostly in charge of Western Europe, bringing heavy showers and thunderstorms, bringing in a further risk of flooding. The odd shower across Madeira and Tenerife, but the bulk of the rain affecting Portugal and Spain, where already they have had most of the rain through the week. Still plenty of showers elsewhere across Europe, and mostly dry across parts of Greece, and remaining dry here with the best of the temperatures, but elsewhere still remaining largely showery, and this is limiting temperatures at around the mid to high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It has been a remarkably dry March so far across the UK, but it's all changed this weekend. Cloudier skies, spells of rain or showers moving through, and as a result, feeling significantly cooler. We've already seen the isobars tighten up across the UK ahead of this area of low pressure. That's increased the breeze as we've gone through the last couple of days. A mild breeze, but increasingly an unsettled one, with spells of rain moving north across the country. The most persistent wet weather overnight, northern England into Scotland and Northern Ireland, although even here there'll be some drier interludes. Further south, eventually turning drier, some clear spells, but with a lot of cloud and that breeze, it is going to be a mild start to Saturday, certainly a frost-free start, a marked contrast compared with the sunny but chilly mornings of the week so far. Now, we do start with plenty of dry weather across England and Wales, although showers couldn't be ruled out just about anywhere. I think West Wales, North West England seeing some sunshine early on. Otherwise, a lot of cloud blankets the UK. And we've got two areas of rain moving north, one affecting western Scotland and western parts of Northern Ireland, another one affecting eastern parts of Scotland, in between some showers. And really, it's a slow-moving situation as we go through the day. I think that for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we'll see further spells of rain or showers, the wettest weather likely for western Scotland, the far north and Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, skies do brighten into the afternoon. There'll be some sunshine. Some places will get away with a dry afternoon, but there'll also be these slow-moving heavy downpours, particularly across central parts of the UK. Where we do get sunshine, 17, 18 Celsius possible, so still some warmth, but it is turning cooler gradually through the weekend. And after a gloomy start to Sunday with some mistiness around eastern coasts, it's going to be another day of sunny spells and some spells of rain or showers. The showers heaviest towards southern parts of England. And we keep the showers going into next week, but it's going to turn drier for many.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It sounds like it's last orders at the bar, almost last orders at the bar. It was a pretty weak bell ring from our producer, Hassan, this week. But I've got John Galea, singer, songwriter, producer, pop sensation, but you was born in Great Yarmouth. Tell me about growing up in Great Yarmouth, John.
Yeah, it was by the coastal town. It was nice. It was a beautiful place to grow up, to be fair.
Yeah.
I miss it, but I go back all the time, so yeah.
It's
nice.
changed a little bit over the years, hasn't it?
Just a tad, yeah. It's had its ups and downs, to be fair, but it's always my home, to be fair. So.
OK, so tell me about some of the famous singers that you've worked with in the past.
Well, I've worked with a lot of producers, I've worked with a lot of singers, but so I write for other artists as well as myself. So I've written for the Monarch, who's a production company. We've worked with loads of people, from Britney to you name it. So yeah, so it's fun. But whenever I write a song, I always think, who could this be for? Could it be for me? Could it be for another artist? And then try to sort through who I can find it for.
So what's the most known song you've wrote? Because I'm not up on all these things.
Oh. It's all right.
Yeah, if I was in the car and the radio was on, what would one of your tunes be?
Well, one of my favourites was a song called Jesus Made Me Bad by a Colombian girl called Laura, which is a really cool song.
A good hit?
Yeah, well, went down well, so you have to give it a Spotify listen.
So you have a passion of mine as well, which is helping out in charities. I help a few local charities as well. Was talking earlier, and I was telling you about my friend Steve Fleming, who was on this show at Christmas, and he lost his young son to cancer, and he's been doing some great charity work, fundraising for the Teenage Cancer Trust.
Amazing.
Now, you've got a story to tell, haven't you, on this?
Yeah, so age 15, I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I had to have like 6 months chemo, went through all of that. So yeah, as a teenager, I kind of know the ups and downs of having cancer. It's not easy, to be fair.
As a 15-year-old?
As a 15-year-old,
As a 15-year-old, you're obviously there with a parent or a carer.
Yeah, 2 parents.
And how did you take that?
As much as you can do. I had amazing support from the family and my community in Norfolk, Grey Yarmouth. They helped amazingly, but it was tough. It was not easy. I was doing my GCSEs at the time as well, so you've got to think of your adolescence as well as, you know, going through this battle. But yeah, it came out the other side, and touch wood, everything's been
So what was the prognosis at the time? What did they say to you?
Well, it wasn't looking great. I had to have 6 months intensive chemo, lost all my hair, eyelashes, everything went, but luckily it went into remission. But yeah, it wasn't easy at all.
And how was life at school when this was all going on?
I didn't really see school, so in the sense of I had to have a tutor that came into hospital to help me with my GCSEs. The school was amazing. The friends and family were raising money, which was fantastic. But it was hard work, because some days, you know, when you're having chemo, you don't particularly want to learn German or French or whatever, but you get through it.
I get that, got through. Yeah, great story. And like I say, my mate Steve is doing great work, raising lots and lots of money for Teenage Cancer Trust. I always like to give them a plug, by the way, because they do some great work. But we also spoke about male suicide as well, before we started. You've been affected by that as well, haven't you?
Yeah, one of my best friends took his life, and out of the blue, no one saw it coming, and unfortunately left the daughter and his wife behind. 21, I think, 22, he's quite young.
Yeah. You know, male suicide takes 15 young men a day from us in this country. It's the biggest killer of men under the age of 50 in the UK. And I mean, I've spoken about it many, many times on this show, spoke about it in Parliament as well. I've got a good friend, Graham. He lost his son, Sean, to male suicide. He was 30, Sean was, big, good-looking lad. Just went home one night and did it, and nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming at all, and we still don't know why he's done it. So we are fundraising for male suicide as well. So yeah, it's something that touches every family.
Unfortunately, it does, and you know, the more open we can talk about it, the better it is, and what people can do to raise funds is amazing.
So I see you're dressed up. You've glitzy black jacket on. I mean, I won't say I won't be seen dead in it. I won't have the courage to be seen in it, to be honest with you.
You look great in it.
And his shoes, I would say, they're like a gold lame sparkly shoes. They're actually blinding. Can we take one off, please?
Oh yeah, if you want to.
But have a look at these shoes he's wearing.
There you go, a bit of glitz.
All he's got to do is click his heels, just click his heels 3 times, and he's back to Kansas. I think that's what he'll do with them. But anyway, so you're dressed like this for a particular reason. You're going somewhere tonight?
No, just for here. No, I'm going tonight. But I usually, this is in my wardrobe. Usually, I like to dress. You know.
Yeah. Many comments on the street, or
just a few.
2 car windows winding down and stuff like that.
Well, you know, you've got to be yourself, haven't you?
OK, so we're here for a reason. We're behind a bar in this great pub in Buckhurst Hill. We're going to get you to pull a pint now.
Right.
So if you've got the coloured glasses.
Yeah.
Have you done this before?
No, this is my first time.
OK, so the trick is you've got to pull the neck oil in 30 seconds, and then I'll give you a mark out of 10.
Right, OK.
So 3, 2, 1, go.
Now you've got to tilt the glass.
Yeah, give it a tilt. Got to have the angle. And I won't ask you a question.
Oh, OK.
If you were stuck on a...
major fail.
Yeah, put that on the bar, please, mate.
Never mind.
Now you've got to put it on the bar. Okay. Yeah, there, that's rubbish. That's a 3 out of 10.
I'm not sure I'm going to get a job here, to be fair.
It's a 3 out of 10. But no, seriously, mate, if you was on a desert island, I know you love your music. First of all, who's your favourite artist of all time? Favourite band or artist?
Well, I love the Bee Gees. They're amazing. Harmony and their songwriting is amazing. So I'd have to pick them.
Have you seen any of the old YouTube clips when they're really, really young?
Yeah,
like in black and white.
Specs and the Specs. Yeah, they're amazing.
Really good. Really good. If you, and I like that answer actually because they were good. If you was on a desert island and you had a gramophone, wind up, record player, but you had one record to take with you, what would it be? And you've got to listen to it on a loop over and over again. What would it
It'd have to be something really harmonic, and I'll go with the Bee Gees, I suppose. How Deep Is Your Love? That's a
good song. Good song.
Amazing
Yeah,
song.
good
Probably
song.
go with that.
There is a YouTube clip of them singing that actually, like just with acoustic guitar.
Amazing.
And amazing harmonies, yeah. So, and I think we forget. I'm quite happy that you mentioned the Bee Gees. We forget how many songs not only did they sing but they wrote in the 1970s. We look at Saturday Night Fever and absolutely astounding.
For
really,
Diana Ross, Dionne Warwick,
Yeah.
just carries on the list. They're very talented boys, yeah, amazing.
So then, John, where does your career go from here?
Well,
apart from getting rid of them shoes.
I don't know, I'm going to get you a pair for you.
Couldn't walk into Parliament with a pair of them on.
Can you imagine?
Well, I get enough abuse as it is. John, let's talk about your future.
Yeah.
Obviously, your future doesn't lie in the pub trade, looking at that point. But seriously, mate, in 5 years' time, what do you see yourself doing?
Well, I'm currently in the studio finishing my debut album, so that'll be coming out shortly with a new music video, doing some tours. Yeah, busy really, as well as writing for other people. I'm always at the piano writing music, so yeah, whatever it is, it's going to be
So
music.
we asked about your favourite artist of all time. I've asked your favourite song. If you was in a concert now and somebody was in the audience, a famous singer, past or present, and you wanted them to come on stage and sing with you, who would it be?
Oh, my goodness
it's
me.
a killer, isn't it?
I know, right?
Go on. 3.
Probably like Mariah Carey would be amazing.
Mariah Carey,
yeah.
there you go.
Although I think she'd show me up a little bit musically.
I think she probably would, yeah.
She's amazing.
John, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Great guest. Massive thanks for joining us here on Lee Anderson's Real World. Coming up next, we've got State of the Nation.
On State of the Nation tonight with me, Matt Goodwin, we will be asking the question, is Britain becoming a country where immigrants and foreigners are put before British people? I think we know the answer. I'll be talking about that. We'll also be looking at the latest chaos at Heathrow Airport, how it's likely to impact the economy with a top economics editor. We're then looking at this growing story about how on earth we can fix our borders and the failures of multiculturalism. I've got a top policy expert in who's been really breaking the taboos on that. He'll be talking to us live. And then this remarkable story of a Home Office contractor who's been sacked for sharing one of Reform UK MP's tweets. Unbelievable. You don't want to miss it. See you shortly.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It has been a remarkably dry March so far across the UK, but it's all changed this weekend. Cloudier skies, spells of rain or showers moving through, and as a result, feeling significantly cooler. We've already seen the isobars tighten up across the UK ahead of this area of low pressure. That's increased the breeze as we've gone through the last couple of days. A mild breeze, but increasingly an unsettled one, with spells of rain moving north across the country. The most persistent wet weather overnight, northern England into Scotland and Northern Ireland, although even here there'll be some drier interludes. Further south, eventually turning drier, some clear spells, but with a lot of cloud and that breeze, it is going to be a mild start to Saturday, certainly a frost-free start, a marked contrast compared with the sunny but chilly mornings of the week so far. Now, we do start with plenty of dry weather across England and Wales, although showers couldn't be ruled out just about anywhere. I think West Wales, North West England seeing some sunshine early on. Otherwise, a lot of cloud blankets the UK. And we've got two areas of rain moving north, one affecting western Scotland and western parts of Northern Ireland, another one affecting eastern parts of Scotland, in between some showers. And really, it's a slow-moving situation as we go through the day. I think that for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we'll see further spells of rain or showers, the wettest weather likely for western Scotland, the far north and Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, skies do brighten into the afternoon. There'll be some sunshine. Some places will get away with a dry afternoon, but there'll also be these slow-moving, heavy downpours, particularly across central parts of the UK. Where we do get sunshine, 17, 18 Celsius possible, so still some warmth, but it is turning cooler gradually through the weekend. And after a gloomy start to Sunday with some mistiness around eastern coasts, it's going to be another day of sunny spells and some spells of rain or showers. The showers heaviest towards southern parts of England. And we keep the showers going into next week, but it's going to turn drier for many.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
could be the next big winner of the Great British Giveaway, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal